What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Home Recording Solutions. Dakota here, and today we are talking about the 6 major steps to a radio-ready song. Every song that you have heard on the radio has been through these 6 major steps. Now, I don't care who it is, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, Michael Jackson, whatever. They've all of their songs have been through this 6-step process. Now, when I was starting out in home recording years ago, I didn't really understand the process. I just sort of thought, well, you go into the studio and you do some stuff, and then somehow a song just happens. Right? A song is produced by doing something over here and doing something over here. A song is produced. I didn't understand that there was actually an organized and structured method for producing a radio-ready song. Now, if the pros have been using these 6 steps for many, many years, then it would be well advised for us in the home studio to use them as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. Number 1, writing the song. You need a good song. Okay, you need to write a good song. People love a good song, even if the mix isn't great, even if the production isn't great or the editing isn't great. People love a good song. The song is king, okay? That's why if you listen back to a lot of older music that was comprised of huge hits, right? Very popular songs that made millions and millions of dollars. If you actually listen to some of these songs, sonically speaking, and you listen to the mixes, some of these older songs back in the day, they didn't sound that great. The mixes weren't that great. The production wasn't that great. Yet these were huge hits and they made millions of dollars. How is that possible? It's possible because at the end of the day, it's not about the mix. It's not about the production. It's all about the song. A good mix, a good master, a good editing process, all of that should support a good song, a song that is already worth its weight. Okay? So, you need to focus on writing a good song. You got to have it. That's before anything else can happen. Okay? So, focus on writing a good song. Now, number 2 is the production or arrangement step. Now, a lot of people sort of skip this step, whether they know it or not, and they don't spend enough time on this step, especially in the home studio. They just sort of jump right into recording without actually thinking about how they want their song arranged and produced. And this is very important because you can have an awesome sounding mix, right? That is completely boring. Everything can be balanced. All the EQ decisions could be awesome. All the compression decisions could be awesome. You could have a nice, well-polished, balanced, boring song if you don't pay attention to the production and arrangement aspect. What makes your introduction to the song exciting or interesting? Why should people keep listening after the first chorus and not just turn the station? What is it about the second verse that is different and exciting and different from the first verse so that listeners aren't like, well, I've been here before. It's different words, but other than that, kind of the same thing. What's different? What about the bridge? Anything exciting happening in the bridge? What about the final chorus? Is the final chorus somehow less exciting than the first chorus? That's a big mistake in many cases. What about the ending of the song? Does the song end well? All of these things have to do with the production and arrangement aspect of the song. So very important. Okay? Is this going to be an electric guitar driven song? Is it going to be maybe a piano driven song or an acoustic driven song? Should I have an electric guitar here and not here? And should the drums, what prominence should they have in the song? So all of these different things have to do with producing an interesting and intriguing song. You don't want it to be boring. You want it to be interesting. Don't skip this process in the stage. We always want to jump right into recording because that's where we're really getting into things and it gets exciting. But you need to think about how you actually want your song produced first. Make it interesting and make it sound good. Okay? Now, the third major step to a radio-ready song is the recording step. This is where you actually get into the studio, get your microphone, your instrument, whatever, and you hit the record button and you actually start recording your song. Okay? And this is one thing that I can't stress enough. There's a myth that goes around that says, don't really worry about recording your song and getting good takes because you can just fix all that in the mix. Big mistake. Don't think that you can fix a bad recording in the mix. No. The mix is there to enhance an already awesome recording session. If your recordings suck, guess what? Your mixes are probably going to suck too. Don't think that you can fix mistakes in the recording process in the mixing process. Get it right at the source. Get it right at the source. Focus on getting great takes, both sonically, whether it's with mic placements, how you position the microphone, what kind of microphone you're using, and performance-wise. If you totally just botch a performance, don't expect to be able to easily fix that in the editing or mixing process. No, do multiple takes. Erase the old take and do a new take. Do it until you get it right. You will thank yourself later when your job is much easier later on in the process. The recording stage is where you get all of your raw tracks recorded and you want them to sound as good as possible. Okay? So don't skimp on this stage of the process. Put enough time into it. Do as many takes as you need. And if you record a take and you say, oh, that's crap, don't be afraid to hit the delete button and do it all over again. Do it until it's right. All right. The next step is, a lot of you might think I was going to say the mixing process, but it's not. That would be a big mistake. The next step that home studio musicians and engineers often overlook is the editing process. Don't skip the editing process. Look, I get it. You just recorded all these tracks. You're excited about it. You want to jump right into the mix immediately and start, inserting plugins on your tracks. And you start doing all this cool stuff and messing with reverbs and delays. And I get it, right? You just want to jump right into it. But trust me, guys, don't skip this stage. The editing stage is so important. Now, what is the editing stage? The editing stage is the stage of the process where you go in to your multi-tracks, you've got them all recorded. Now you go in and you edit everything if needed to make sure that everything is in time and in tune. Okay? Now this can include things like pocketing drums, time aligning drums, making sure that they're aligned to the grid in your DAW, and time aligning, the bass guitar and other guitars, and time aligning pianos, and anything that is jumping out of the mix that is distracting. It sounds out of time. You want to fix that. Now, I'm not saying that you need to just drain out all the humanity out of your song and out of your performances. I'm not saying you need to edit things to death. But what I am saying is that if you've got a sloppy performance, or even a pretty good performance that has a few offbeats, that can be very distracting to a listener, and it screams home studio production. It screams amateur. You see, guys, we don't want the listeners out there to think by listening to our songs, oh, he recorded that in home studio. We want them to think that we went into this huge commercial studio, $1 million facility, and recorded our song there. That's what we want them to think. And if you've got timing and tuning problems, nothing screams amateur more than that. So make sure that you've got any timing inconsistencies, you've got them fixed. And again, I'm not saying you have to drain the life out of everything. You don't have to edit everything to death, but things that do stick out, you need to fix them. Now, tuning. Tuning is also important. If you have done a good, responsible job making sure that your instruments are in tune before you hit the record button, you shouldn't have much to do in the way of tuning other than with the vocals. Okay, so if you've made sure your guitar's in tune, and bass guitar and acoustic piano and other stuff like MIDI instruments and keyboards, those are already in tune, so you don't have to worry about them. If you've done a good job making sure your acoustic instruments are in tune, you shouldn't have much of a worry here, except for with the vocals. And if the vocalist is a decent singer, you shouldn't have to do a whole lot here, but you will. In order to get things up to professional standards in the music industry today, you will probably have to spend some decent time vocal tuning the lead vocal and maybe the backup vocals as well, depending on how in tune or out of tune they are. So tuning is very important. Don't skimp on this either. Hopefully you've got a good vocalist in your band, or if you are the singer, hopefully you're a decent vocalist. But still, nobody's perfect, and there's going to be mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes need to be fixed. No, you don't have to make yourself sound like a robot. You don't have to drain all the humanity out of the vocal, but you do need to get it up to radio quality standards. Okay, so editing primarily involves making sure things are in tune and making sure things are in time. It can also involve phase alignment and things like that. Like if you got multi-track drums and they're all out of phase, this would be a great time to fix that rather than waiting till the mixing process. Okay. And we will get into videos later down the road about how to deal with all that stuff. Okay. Now next is the fun stage, right? It's the mixing process. It's where you take all these ingredients that you've been working on and you throw them together and you cook up a nice, great tasting meal. Okay? You take all these tracks and you get them balanced volume-wise. You get them balanced frequency-wise. You use things like equalization and compression, and you use things like reverbs and delays to add ambience and to make things sound interesting, and all kinds, there's all kinds of other effects you can use too if you want. This is the process where you take your raw sounding tracks and you mix them all together to create a professional radio quality song. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. This can be a daunting task if you're new at mixing. This can take years of practice and experience and knowledge, but that's what people like me are here for, to teach you to speed up the process. I don't want it to take 10 years for you to get good at mixing. Okay, so I'm here to help speed up the process for you so you can make awesome sounding mixes in a shorter amount of time. Mixing primarily is all about balance. Yes, there are some other things about it, but basically speaking, it's about getting everything balanced and panned right, and where every track works together and produces a great sounding song. Everything is mixed well, okay? And that's just a really brief summary of what mixing is. And obviously, a large part of what this channel is going to talk about is how to mix and how to get good mixes. But there is one more step after you've got a great professional quality sounding mix. There's one more step called the mastering step. Okay? Now, most people hire a professional mastering engineer that they send their mix to. They've got a great sounding mix that they like. They send it to a mastering engineer for a couple of reasons. First off, because he's a professional that's been doing it for years, knows what he's doing, and probably has really nice monitors and a really nice listening environment. But also importantly, he can offer an objective opinion about your song. Now, before I talk any more about that, let's talk about what the mastering process is. The mastering process is where either you or the mastering engineer, okay, and if you're doing it, you're playing the role of the mastering engineer. You take that final mix, that final, 24-bit, whatever sample rate you record it at, you take that mix and you bounce it down, you render it, you mix it down, whatever your DAW calls it, to a stereo file, okay? And you take that stereo file and you add any little tweaks and adjustments that apply to the whole song. Mastering is no longer working with separate tracks. You are now working with your whole song, your whole mix. So everything that you do to it, or anything that you do to it, is going to affect the whole song. Okay, so normally in mastering, subtlety is the key. Mastering can involve making slight tonal balances with EQ, and it can involve things like compression and stereo widening and mid-side processing even. It can involve, fixing some phase problems. But also a big part of what it involves is getting the volume up, getting the overall volume of the track up to a commercial standard. You don't want your listeners out there to be listening to your song and it be really, really quiet, where they're having to crank the volume up and still not getting loud. You want to get that volume up to a commercial standard without crushing the dynamics too much. And a good mastering engineer will know how to do this. So I would encourage you to not do this yourself, but to send it to a mastering engineer. But mastering basically is where either you or the mastering engineer takes your stereo file, your song, and applies little itty bitty changes to it. If you've got a good mix, or if it's not a mix rescue project, but makes little itty bitty changes to it just to enhance it a little bit And if it's part of a bigger album of songs, to make sure that it has a nice continuity and flow with the other songs, that it gels well, that it just doesn't, it doesn't sound like it doesn't belong on that record. And so mastering involves all of these things, okay? And there you have it, folks. That is the 6 major steps to a radio ready song. And one of them, the mastering step, you don't even have to do. You can send to a mastering engineer. So let's go over it real quick again. Write you a good song. Number 1, think out the production and arrangement. Very important. Number 2, record it and record it well. Number 3, edit it. Make sure that things are in tune and in time without having to drain all the life out of everything. Number 5, mix your song. Okay? You got all those raw tracks. Make sure that they all mix together and they comprise a nice sounding song. And then number 6 is the mastering step, where the mastering engineer applies just a little slight enhancement to it to make it ready to be out there in the mainstream world. Okay. Now, that's it, folks. Those are the 6 major steps to a radio ready song. And probably just about everything that I'm going to teach you on this channel falls into one of these categories. Now, yes, you can break each one of these categories down like you can with anything. You can break each one down and talk about it and go into depth all day long. There's a lot that has to do with writing a song. There's a lot that has to do with good production and arrangement techniques and recording and editing. And that's what we're going to talk about on the channel. But these are the 6 major steps. Follow them in order. Don't skip anything. And you will be glad that you followed a structured path to your song instead of just walking in the studio and doing random stuff and hoping a good song is going to pop out of it. Okay? Thank you so much, guys, for listening. Please subscribe. And next time, we are going to talk about how to properly sound treat your home studio without breaking the bank. We're talking about the importance of sound treatment or acoustic treatment. So be sure to tune in next time. Thanks a lot, guys, and I'll catch you on the next video.